Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Josh Carr Show. Today, we will be talking about Ron DeSantis and what went wrong.
We don't have a clear path to victory.
Really quick, before we get into it, I'm going to show a couple clips about it as well. I do want to talk about the first sponsor of this podcast, Gulag America. Guys, I've been talking about Gulag America for so long. They're a patriotic clothing apparel brand. I'm going to pop some of their stuff up right now. They have fantastic stuff. It lasts in the wash. I've said this so many times. Do I have to say it again? Go check them out at gulagamerica.com. If you use my code JoshCarr10, you will get 10% off. Again, that's at gulagamerica.com. Get yourself some sweet clothing that shows that you're a true patriot. Maybe even get someone a gift as well for that special Valentine's Day. I know they've probably got some special Valentine's Day shirts and hoodies coming out, so stay tuned for that. Anywho, going into, as you heard, Donald Trump has destroyed Ron DeSantis. And the reason why I say Donald Trump has destroyed Ron DeSantis and not Ron DeSantis dropped out of the race is because if you look at the Iowa caucus, it wasn't as simple as, Ron DeSantis just dropping out. It was literally Ron DeSantis got destroyed by Donald Trump.
Before we begin, I'd like to take time to congratulate Ron DeSantis and, of course, a really terrific person who I've gotten to know, his wife Casey, for having run a great campaign for president. He did. He ran a really good campaign, I will tell you. It's not easy. They think it's easy doing this stuff, right? It's not easy. But as you know, he left the campaign trail today at 3 p.m., and in so doing, he was very gracious, and he endorsed me, so I appreciate it.
Donald Trump has eclipsed Ron DeSantis, who was seen as kind of the person that could maybe stand up to him. And at this point, he's up like 70 points on Nikki Haley. It's probably going to end like 70-30, and very soon, I expect right after New Hampshire, when she shockingly just gets destroyed in New Hampshire. I say shockingly, sarcastically, of course. I don't think anyone really expects her to do that well. Maybe a little better than in Iowa, but it's going to be like 70-30. She's going to drop out right after, I assume, even with the whole establishment behind her. I want to remind everybody, back in January, DeSantis actually had the lead on Trump. I'm going to be talking about what went wrong, what his cardinal sin was, what DeSantis is going to have to do to maybe overcome other contenders in 2028 if he runs. Going back, a flashback to January 30th. If you go back to January 30th, DeSantis was plus 15 in one of the polls. Okay, that one was a little bit of an exaggeration, admittedly, but if you go to the other ones, up by 4 and a couple others even with Donald Trump. So at this point, you're looking at the polls and you're thinking, Ron DeSantis has what it takes to beat Donald Trump. And this is what I believe Ron DeSantis' cardinal sin was. Flashback to 2022, the midterms. I gotta say this about Donald Trump. If you like Donald Trump, that's fine, whatever, but this is the reality of the situation. He endorsed 21 senators, and which, that's what really matters the most, or at least it's a little easier to measure than, say, congressmen, because there's freaking 430-something of them. But if you look at Senate endorsements, 11 of his Senate endorsements lost, and 10 of them won. So a majority lost, and if you look at the 10 that won, they were honestly the ones that were probably going to win anyway. You saw people like J.D. Vance in Ohio, who should have won by a landslide, kind of scraped by with like 5 or 6%. Where Ohio traditionally Republicans were winning by a little bit more than that. But in any case, you saw that Donald Trump kind of let the Republican Party down in 2022. And look, you can slice it however way you want. You can say it's not his fault, it was the Republican Party's fault, whatever. All I'm saying is that Donald Trump didn't really do those people any favors, even if it wasn't all on him, okay? I mean, look at Georgia. He's literally lost a Senate, multiple Senate seats in Georgia. But in any case, the cardinal sin of Ron DeSantis was not announcing his candidacy right after 22 when Donald Trump failed and he succeeded. I just want to remind you, if you've forgotten, in 2018, when Ron DeSantis ran for governor, endorsed by Donald Trump, totally true. I know I'm going to get comments from the Donald Trump lovers because this is just what you get for it. But you got to remember in 2018 that he won by about 1%, not even 1%. It was a really tight race, and that's what we expected from Florida, right? Same deal with Donald Trump, for instance, in 2016. He barely won. Awesome, okay? Now, 2022 rolls around, sweeping victories in the Florida House and Senate for Republicans, sweeping victories for the senators, Marco Rubio, up for grabs, and Ron DeSantis goes from a 1% victory in 2018 to a 19.5% victory. That is insane. And me and everybody else was looking at him like, oh my gosh. Like, we hear so much. The DNC is a powerhouse. You don't have to be a Democrat to know that the Democrat Party is very good at what they do. And yeah, they're very corrupt, sure, but man, they know how to do it in a way that Republican Party, the establishment, doesn't even really know how to do. And so to see Ron DeSantis go into Miami and turn it bright red was crazy. And what I'm thinking is, wow, he's the guy who's going to beat Joe Biden hands down. Not only is he going to beat Joe Biden, but he's a unifier because that's what we saw in Florida. And what he should have done is he should have announced his candidacy for presidency right there. And he should have been like, Donald Trump lost 11 of his endorsements, only won 10. Look at this sweeping victory. If he had done that, and obviously there was a few marketing things, a few marketing kinks that he needed to work out. But if he had done that, I believe that Ron DeSantis had a really good shot at winning the nomination. Sure, he still had a big, Trump is looked at as an incumbent. I'm not saying that he didn't have a bit of an uphill battle, but I am saying that, man, it would have been much more of a fight, which, after those polls that I cited, Donald Trump ran away with it. If you don't know, DeSantis announced his run for president May 24th. May 24th. Donald Trump announced right after the 2022 election. He had a 6-month jump on Ron DeSantis. I don't understand how you think that you are supposed to beat someone in a race that, and I'm not even talking about like a voting race. I'm talking about like a literal race. If someone just in a race has a 6-month lead on you, you're going to lose. Nothing is different in elections. I think a huge part of Donald Trump, his strategy was being the first in because he's trying to scare other people, but he's trying to suck all the air out of the room. That's what he does really well. He did it from Ron DeSantis. He literally took Ron DeSantis' amazing Republican victory. Now, and look, I'm going to stick my finger in the camera. If you're a Donald Trump fan, that's fine, but you cannot look at me and tell me that Ron DeSantis wasn't a beast in 2022. If you are, you're a liar. Don't even say it, okay? Because he was. He took 1% and turned it to 19%. That's all you could possibly ask for a Republican if you're a conservative. Ron DeSantis, I actually listened to him speak in Utah. He was at the Utah delegate meeting, the Republican convention on April 22nd. He had not yet announced his run for candidacy. And here's the deal. I personally was interviewing the delegates in Utah and I was asking, who are you supporting? Who are you supporting? It was like 40-60 in favor of Ron DeSantis, I'm telling you. And look, Utah is not the most Trumpy state, but still, it was like 60-40. People were really excited to hear him. If he had been already announced as a candidate for president, man, that event would have been so much better. But he waited till May 24th. It made no sense. Of course, people will talk about his charisma, and that ultimately was a problem, but it was not the problem. I truly believe the cardinal sin of Ron DeSantis in his campaign was that he didn't just freaking go for it right after he had a sweeping victory. And you can say that people in Florida were going to feel betrayed by that. I think most people in Florida wanted him to be, I think they're looking around, they're like, yeah, we liked him as a governor, we like him as a president. I don't think they're going to feel betrayed by him. Really quick, guys, before I do move on to the last thing that really set Donald Trump apart from Ron DeSantis, it was honestly one of his great victories, but also a blunder on the part of Ron DeSantis. I do want to talk about our second sponsor. Hello, everybody. As you can see, I am not in the studio right now. I am in my garage, where I want to share with you how my wife and I keep our stuff organized going into the new year. We use smart labels, an easier way of storing those Christmas decorations and lights so we don't lose them again next year. First, you just slap a label on your bin, download the free Smart Labels app, create your first smart label, add the items you have in your bin or box, and later search for your stuff when you need it without having to climb over boxes. The best part, the first year is free. So go get your smart labels now at Amazon or Walmart.com. Now, obviously, Ron DeSantis didn't run the best campaign. He, like I said, he went a little bit late, and that's just reality we have to look at. But something that happened to Donald Trump that, I don't know, you could say this was strategy. It was kind of more happenstance, but at the same time, he did certainly use it to his advantage, which of course is the legal cases that came against him. There was a huge shift in the Republican Party the moment that Democrat judges and attorney generals started attacking Donald Trump. And this, in my opinion, actually shows some massive GOP unification in the electorate. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still a establishment versus not establishment thing going on. It's a dichotomy that the GOP is going through right now. And hey, I'm here for it because I personally think the non-establishment are more than the establishment. But it's going to be a fight regardless because the establishment has the money. But there was a unification that went on when Donald Trump was falsely accused of all these things, and even things that, I'm not to say if they're false or not. I'm not a judge, but there are things that never would have been brought up to a liberal or a Democrat. And this unification spells trouble for Democrats. It's a really good thing. In fact, talking about DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy dropping out and endorsing Donald Trump, I think this could be a huge GOP comeback, despite not being the greatest Trump supporter myself at all. But the Democrats have proven to be really unified. And it's time for the GOP to stand up and do the same. And there's no doubt that when they kind of poked the bear, all the GOP looked at it and they were like, this is literally against the rule of law. You could even be a Republican and think that Donald Trump committed insurrection and look at some of the other crap cases that have been put against him and be like, what the heck? Even if you hate Donald Trump and you're a conservative, you can still look at these cases and be like, this is really annoying. And I don't love the dude. He did some very unconservative things, in my opinion, when he was president. But I see this blatant disregard from liberal judges and attorney generals and just liberals at large. I see this blatant disregard for the rule of law, and it makes me want to support Donald Trump. Because I'm like, I just want to stick it to you. Like, screw you. You think you can just go against the masses? You think you can just take a guy and just screw him, or literally strategically place the date of all his court cases so he can't actually campaign? Now look, I'm totally okay with him being treated like other people, but he's not being treated as normal people. No one would be treated the way that he's been treated, especially a Democrat politician. I mean, don't even get me started on that. And so for that reason, it makes me, as someone who's not super pro Donald Trump and the Republican Party, want to support him. And I think that's where a lot of other GOP people are at right now. For that reason, DeSantis, not his fault. He fell by the wayside and now he has dropped out. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't checked out my other videos, go check them out. I love hearing what you have to say in the comments, so I appreciate you commenting. I'll always respond to them. Unless they're like super weird, like some people, I probably won't respond. But if it's a real comment, I will respond, and I'd love to have a dialogue with you. We'll see you next time.